what has happened at the monsoon session of the Parliament. In fact, it got off to a stormy start, and expectedly so, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed Operation Sindoor as a Vijay Utsav, meaning victory celebration for the nation. However, the opposition demanded discussion on Operation Sindoor, and the Lok Sabha was adjourned due to the chaos in the House. Now, Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi claimed that he was not being allowed to speak. Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, in fact, hit back, saying that the Parliament is not Rahul's drawing room. So is it time for the government to take hard questions by the opposition on Operation Sindoor, and should India ramp up defence spending? We discussed that. But before we get into that, let's listen to the political reactions.
साथियों, ये मॉनसून सत्र राष्ट्र के लिए ये बहुत ही गौरवपूर्ण सत्र है। ये मॉनसून सत्र राष्ट्र के लिए एक अपने आप में विजयोत्सव का रूप है।
देखिए, सवाल ये है कि जो हाउस में डिफेंस मिनिस्टर को बोलने देते हैं, उनके लोगों को बोलने देते हैं, मगर अगर विपक्ष का कोई कुछ कहना चाहता है तो अलाउड नहीं है। मैं लीडर ऑफ ऑपोजिशन हूँ, मेरा हक है, तो मुझे तो कभी बोलने ही नहीं देते हैं।
यस, पहलगांव एंड ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में आपने जो दुनिया को बताया, हमको बताया, हिंदुस्तान के लोगों को बताया, उसकी बात कर रहा हूं। हमारे को इंफॉर्मेशन तो देना चाहिए।
All right, we heard the reactions, but let me take that opportunity to introduce my guest this evening. Joining us on the show today is Major General retired Dr. S.B. Asthana, defense expert, as well as Rashid Kidpai, visiting fellow Observer Research Foundation and political commentator. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here this evening. Major General Asthana, let me begin with you, sir. Given the fact that after the precision strikes like Operation Sindoor, how much operational detail must be revealed publicly? This is without compromising national security, in your opinion.
Firstly, I must say Operation Sindoor is an operation of which India has every reason to be proud of. It was a very well conceived operation wherein we had the strategic aims very well laid out. We gave the strategic messaging, and after giving the requisite strategic messaging, we were able to control the escalation dynamics and control it in a manner that we have paused the operation and given a reasonable deterrence to Pakistan in that context. Now, as far as your point is concerned, I must highlight that discussions on wars have been happening in the democracies. There is nothing very great about it. But notwithstanding that, the secrecy is required up to a point, and that I think every national citizen and parliamentarian must be conscious of, in a manner that we have only paused it. We have also upped the ante to say that our doctrine now will be that any more terror attack will be responded appropriately as an act of war. If that be so, then we have to be ready to respond. And we know that fair amount of exchanges have taken place. There is a fair amount of information which is in the domain of the adversaries as well as of the international media. At the same time, we do not want to be at the receiving end or a disadvantageous end by putting more information or pumping more information in the public domain. So I think it's a very fine line, which I'm sure the leaders would be matured enough to understand. And I think a lot can be discussed. Like after the war, few things which I must say which can be discussed or must be discussed is the case of the defense budget. More defense budget certainly is required. If Pakistan has hiked by 20%, if China has also hiked their defense budget, there is no reason why, and Europeans have, everybody is on more than 5%. We can't be less than 2% and hope that we will be able to tackle China and Pakistan together in future. So I think there is a need there for deliberation, in which I think the entire country and all, whether government or otherwise, everybody is involved. Same is the case of the capacity building. Same is the case with the narrative building, because there is a lot which can be done in the narrative building. So therefore, I think everybody has to be on board, responsibly discuss certain aspects and leave certain aspects which can give out certain information which could be of advantage to the adversaries. Back to you.
Right, so you're saying essentially it's a thin line that needs to be balanced over there, and fair enough. But Mr. Kidbai, let me come to you. Given the aspect that, is the opposition demanding accountability or using parliament to challenge the government's control of the narrative? The point that even Sir just made about the narrative aspect. How do you look at that?
Thank you, Loksabha. I think I would endorse every word that's spoken by Major General Asthana. But it is politics in India that dominates everything. So there is a fine distinction between the Indian state, for which actually a sort of our commitment is absolute, unquestionable, and there is a government of India. Now, government of India's actions can be questioned and challenged. There is no, set standard operating system or a protocol. In the past, there have been several, war-like situation. In 1962, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a young MP. He raised a question and demanded a parliament session, demanded, a sort of Jawaharlal Nehru's handling of it. And we saw that even in 1971 war, there was a lot of questioning by Bharatiya Janata Sangh. So there's a whole history of it. Now the real problem, starts when there is a sort of overt politicization of the entire thing, and some credit is sought to be taken by a particular political party or followers of political formation or ideology, and opposition is left out in that sense. And therefore, there is a sort of, I'm not justifying, but I'm just saying what opposition is trying to do is trying to come up and raise questions. Now, there is a whole issue of social media. I mean, imagine a scenario where if Monsoon Singh was Prime Minister and a US President had gone on record saying 24 times certain things, then, the BJP in opposition would have, made a huge, hue and cry about it. Now that if Congress or opposition is trying to do, they are dubbed as anti-national, and that I find it as problematic. Raising a question or raising a query, however inconvenient it may sound, it cannot be an act of treason or anti-national. I saw that after Operation Sindoor, a lot of things were said by both sides, I would say, which were, as a citizen, I would feel that was highly avoidable, uncalled for, and of course regrettable.
All right. While you put that into context for us as well, Major General Asthana, like you pointed out as well, the discussion of this aspect is not new, but secrecy and that balance is much needed. But in previous conflicts, whether it's Kargil, Balakot, even 97-1, how did the Parliament handle these briefings, disclosures and debate? Have we learnt anything from those precedents, or would you say this is still ad hoc?
See, every war teaches you something, and you, as good analysts, I would say that we learn from every war. And as a country, also you mature and learn from every war. And there are many lessons in this war too.
Correct.
Which I'm sure, in fact, I have written extensively on that. I must say that if I have to take away certain lessons, the kind of, firstly, what came out loud and clear was that our indigenous manufacturing needs a great boost, and I think the whole Parliament should be discussing as to how we can develop more as far as the indigenous manufacturing is concerned. How can we get various kinds of, how can we have our manufacturing put together? Similarly, the reliance on the foreign equipment is difficult. Similarly, you find that the technology, the war, the dimension and the instruments of war have changed. The drone warfare was predominant. The standoff attacks were predominant. And I think India did very well with the indigenous technology. And indigenous technology, one major advantage which emerged out was that while the international platforms, the opposing sides knew everything and were prepared. But with the indigenous platform, even if they were not technologically that superior, but the other side was absolutely not prepared because of the kind of secrecy which we had. So that was one part of it. Similarly, the battle of narratives. Now here I must highlight that we have to learn, we have to have some kind of doctrine and organization in place for the battle of narratives. Now, the entire debate which is going around all over, I must very objectively analyze it. See, if it was decided at 3:35 that we will go for a pause or say quote unquote ceasefire, if that was decided, there is no reason why Indian state or Indian MEA should not have given a tweet at 3:40, because since it was decided that it will be given out at 5 o'clock by India and Pakistan chose to share it with the USA. This gave us space to the outsider leaders to claim credit, and that has caused all the kinds of confusion. And thereafter, we have been doing only firefighting. So this is something which we need to learn, because we need to have a strategic doctrine for narrative building. Today, information warfare is part of warfare. The kinetic war is one part of it. The non-kinetic war is another. And the biggest lesson which comes out is that you cannot take non-kinetic war, you have to take non-kinetic war also equally seriously. So therefore, narrative building became important.
Right.
Same is the case with the other issue of whether did we suffer some losses or not. The question is, if you suffer a loss, I don't know what is the exact answer, but let me lead on certain terms. There is a level of secrecy involved. We do not want to tell, like, I mean, I'm giving you hypothetical situations. We don't want to tell the enemy that we also have decoys which can look like Rafale. That is one issue. At the same time, maybe we had, let's say hypothetically, instead of certain statements coming out to say that, okay, the in-war damages do take place, I think we should have a very clear-cut stance to say either it did not take place or it took place, and then we could have said, okay, even Americans, they lost 2 F-35 while dealing with Houthis, and they just rolled out of their aircraft carrier, and that was played out. Similarly, as far as country is concerned, I don't think it would have made any difference if we would have said that we lost, and if we actually lost, and if we did not lose, then to say and maintain the same narrative till from first day till the last, that no, we didn't lose anything, everything is a fake news. So it should have been one narrative, and that is where I say that narrative warfare is the biggest lesson which I'm sure we should learn. At the same time, there is a secrecy involved. We do not want to delve into it, and we don't want people to get into it too much. For this reason, because there are certain technologies which we are trying out, and it may well happen that a clear-cut answer to this question may help the enemy. So therefore, I don't think once the military is saying that hereafter don't get into it too much, then I think we should understand the message behind it. That we should not, because there are a lot of innovations which we are trying to do.
Fair enough, sir. Like you're saying that it's far more than just the battle, and given how you put that into a picture, sorry to interject you, but Mr. Kidwai, do you agree with that? And also given the other aspect of defense preparedness as well, what do you make of that with the given situation?
I think General Sana said it, it's absolutely right and important to get all these things in place. I would say even a sort of some kind of, doctrine or some kind of do's and don'ts, even for our media and, television network. And see, we have too much of information, source base, and some of it was quite actually embarrassing and unsubstantiated. So we need to regulate. But the issue comes, who will build the cat? If there is so much of trust deficit between the government and opposition, and domestic politics, dominate so much that we try to otherize opposition, we try to view opposition as those who are detrimental to national interests, or those who are allegedly hand in glove with, enemy forces, etc. I'm saying if there is even 5% or 10% of truth in it, the government must probe and, bring those people to, books and punish them, because sedition, indulging in anti-national activities, waging war against the state, these are serious, crimes, and no political party or no individual should be committing it. But those who are in government, if they are leveling such charges, these charges should not be unsubstantiated or just for the heck of it that they will get away with it. So these are some of the serious problems that are actually putting us in a bit of an awkward position. I think when we say we are a developed nation, we must behave like a developed nation and do as General Asthana is suggesting.
As you pointed out, like we were talking about the defense preparedness as well, Major General Asthana, with the defense spending still hovering around 2% of the GDP, despite the two-front threat matrix, is India preparing for tomorrow's wars with yesterday's budgets? Is that, if you're looking at it at that point, because F-35s, more Rafales, wait for indigenous projects, how do you look at that?
Certainly, we need to have more defense spending because, see, if the threat has increased, like today, why Europe has increased the defense spending? Because the threat has increased. They feel that the threat has increased. Now, we also know that the threat has increased. Reason being, we know it is a clear-cut demonstration that China helped them with all the information and with kind of the material support. Turkey helped Pakistan with material support. The USA also indirectly has been helping them in all kinds of, shall I say, media warfare and things like that. The point I'm trying to make is, when we know that the threat is like this, so certainly we need to prepare more and we need more capabilities. Now, for example, as far as the surveillance capabilities are concerned, see, China has its own system and its own satellite system. And they helped out Pakistan and they shared it with Pakistan. And we must assume that whatever West is supporting Ukraine, that much help will certainly come from China to Pakistan. That much is the basic yardstick which we must go about. Now, if that is the yardstick, then we cannot carry on with 2% GDP because we need to develop our satellite system. We need to have our own surveillance systems. It can't happen that they will get 45th generation aircraft and you are fighting with 4.5 generation or something like that. Similarly, Pakistan has 7 AWACS. We have just 2 AWACS. Now that is a fair amount of asymmetry. And when we know that the warfare displayed that it was an aerial warfare, how can you be not having that kind of superiority of assets as far as air warfare is concerned? Similarly, we talk of other assets. When we talk of launching those satellites, when we talk of loiter ammunition, when we talk of drones, I think a fair amount of work has to go in, and that everything requires money. Similarly, the shortage of air assets, 42 squadrons sanctioned versus 30 odd squadrons being held. I think it's too big a gap to be dealt with given a kind of collusive threat which the country faces. So I think that needs to be perhaps fast-tracked, and the money has to be found. Although, and also now we have also demonstrated to the country, and I think our country can very proudly say, we have also, since our equipment has done well, there is a market for that equipment too. So therefore, you will get a lot of money if this defense manufacturing takes off. The country's GDP will grow. After all, America became superpower by earning money from the arms dealers through their arms purchases, arms shipments and things like that. So I think it's an area where we can work on, and we should take up Sindoor as a good transition for a Viksit Bharat through defense manufacturing too, in addition to increasing our capability development. So I think it must increase. Defense allocation has to increase. We can't help it, actually. It's a compulsion now. Back to you.
All right, Major General Asthana, the way you're looking at it is that a lot of work has to be done, especially in terms of the monetary aspect that we're looking at. But like you said, with Exhibit A of examples that we've looked at, perhaps that's the direction that India should be heading in. But on that note, I want to thank you, sir, as well as Mr. Kidwai for joining us this evening. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that on Business at 9. And in fact, before we wrap up this edition, let's tell you about what's really transpired as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, because land acquisition for Chennai's second airport at Parandur is on track, but mounting local protests. political opposition and environmental concerns continue to cloud the mega Greenfield project's future. ET Now's Jude Sanath filed this report. Take a look. I leave you with the same. Thank you for watching.
Sources have told ET Now that the Tamil Nadu government is on track to complete land acquisition for Chennai's new Greenfield airport in Parandur, 70 kilometers outside the city, by the end of this year. In all, the Tamil Nadu government, we're told, is targeting a total land acquisition of 3,774 acres of privately held land, along with 1,972 acres of government-owned land, so as to kickstart construction for the project, which we're told will now begin well ahead of the Tamil Nadu Assembly elections in 2026, which is, of course, next year. What this essentially means is that the Tamil Nadu government is targeting the functioning and the inauguration of phase 1 of a fully functioning Greenfield airport by the year 2028. Now, all of this essentially means a windfall for landowners here in this tiny hamlet just outside Chennai. We're told that valuations range from anywhere between 35 lakh to 2.5 crore rupees per acre that the Tamil Nadu government is offering landowners here as compensation for acquiring their lands for the purpose of construction of this project itself. In all, nearly 17.52 acres owned by 19 landowners have been sold to the Tamil Nadu government, which has coughed up nearly 9.2 crore rupees by way of compensation as of the 9th of July. Now, while the project itself is much hyped, it isn't without its own share of controversy. Social activists, environmental activists, several locals and also opposition parties in Tamil Nadu have called for the scrapping of the project, largely on account of the fact that it is proposed to be built over alleged eco-sensitive water bodies in the state itself. While the principal opposition, the AIADMK, has called for the will of the people to be adhered to in the proposal of the construction of the airport itself, up-and-coming actor turned politician Joseph Vijay has called for the complete scrappage of the project itself. But for the moment, what we're told is that the Tamil Nadu government is on track and is confident of completing land acquisition by the end of this year, before saying it will have phase 1 of a fully functioning airport by the year 2028.